Well, let's switch this over. Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, depending on where you are. I'm the Green Wizard. Welcome to my channel. If you don't know me and you were just referred over here, I'm the soil guy. I mess with plants and experiment with plants so that you don't have to. No, that's not exactly true, but what I write in my books, this being the first book, The Green Wizard's Guide, to help you understand what mistakes I made in an entertaining way and how you can go organic in just a day and really make a difference in your yard and your garden. And yes, they do both relate to each other. You'll see that throughout my channel. That's what this is about. I got into a discussion on a channel yesterday, talking with Kathy. We'll call her Kathy. She knows who she is. She can sound off if she likes. About opening a new garden. And her concern is not knowing the soil conditions and going to a raised bed and how to, her issues, as abundant as they could potentially be. There's the unknown factor of what was in the soil before. Well, I take that a step further and even say you don't know what kind of water they used. Tap water, for instance, from the city could have toxins in them that you don't want to be putting in your garden. Now, where your grass is going to help and can absorb some of that and can be thrown away, there's a whole science behind this. And I got up this morning, head throbbing, how to explain this and keep it in terms that I would use in one of my books, which is available on Amazon. You can find it on greenwizardsguide.com and get your copy there. I am a indie author, so I'm on my own to get the word out that there's somebody out there that has done all of this, has gotten away from the store-bought chemicals, and has an incredible yard to go along with it. And the stuff that's coming out of my garden, well, let me show you a radish. This is supposed to be the size of a quarter. It's called a white tip radish. But in my yard, this is what they do. Just to give an example. And that's just one of my test beds. And I test a lot of different things. Plants will tell you everything you need to know. And like I've said in my other book, or in this book, weeds are your friend. They're there for a reason, to correct soil conditions. So not all weeds are bad. Just because somebody said, like the dandelion, everybody hates the dandelion. And it breaks up the clay in your yard, and it's an edible plant. And that's the problem right now. We've all got too much clay globally, caused by a different system. Now, whether you did it or not isn't the issue, because you can correct that. You can switch that really, really quick. But the reason you came in here is for phytoremediation. Now, this topic It really belongs in my third book. But so many people are concerned. They're having trouble in their yard. They're having trouble in their garden. And they're not sure what to do. Yes, you can send your soil samples out and find out what's there. But then what do you do? Are you going to dig up your entire yard and bring in all new that could be contaminated in a completely different way? Or maybe you've used tap water for lack of being able to get a hold of rainwater or stabilized water or clean water, because you can use this same system, phytoremediation, to clean water. A huge explanation, and I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to bury anyone in detail, because it's not the detail that we need. It's just the knowledge. If you have the basic knowledge, you can do something about it. So if you're getting into a new yard, let's say, and you're not sure of what's there, and you want to kind of help Mother Nature, there's 2 trees. Obviously don't do these near your garden. You don't want to be fighting tree roots. Poplar tree, huge, huge. Air Force uses it. When they're trying to clean up areas of miscellaneous, they use poplar trees. Red twig dagwood tree also. So if you're thinking about your unknown factors in your yard and you want to plant trees, but you want to clean the yard up and the garden soils up, planting these trees will clean these areas up. It'll clean up your entire yard. It'll filter the water. It'll absorb legitimately. I know that seems odd, but it will absorb these heavy metals, which are our worst enemy, but that it'll absorb the heavy metals out of the soil into the tree and become inert, not bother anything, not hurt anything, no longer be a problem. I'll go into that a little bit further into this, but that's kind of what we're wanting to do here. If you're going to build a garden, you're not going to go out and get old railroad ties that have been treated in God only knows what so that they last longer, and put these things around your garden and release all these toxins into your garden to make a raised bed. At the same time, you don't want to go out and get lumber treated for water. You want just straight old pine, but I'd go even one further, because that you're going to have to replace. It breaks down Mother Nature's way. And then you've got these broken down walls that aren't holding the garden back any longer. I suggest, and it's a suggestion, and others are using it, just get cinder blocks. It's cheap. It's simple. You can line it back up. You've even got little storage holes so that you can add marigolds, for example, something that's going to drive off animals. Certain ones won't go past marigolds. They smell them and back off. Again, that's more so chapter or book 3 in the Green Wizard's Guide, because it's more so building your garden. The idea here is you want to be able to clean the soils. Even though you're amending stuff and you're putting stuff in your soils, are you sure they're toxin free? Are you sure? 1,000% sure. See, that's kind of where nobody's going here. If you've got a garden that's kind of fading, you might have problems. You might have abundance of heavy metals or other biological toxins in your soils that you aren't even aware of. Whether it be somebody a block away spraying Roundup that has gotten in there, and I'm not saying this is going to absorb Roundup. Don't. This is a killer that is nonstop everywhere. Once it's down, and there's no way to get rid of it. Deadly, deadly, deadly. Bad, bad, bad. Anyhow, we're worried about our lead, nickel, zinc, chromium 3. Oh my God. And I'm sure you've all heard of Aaron Brockovich and the issues with groundwater being, there's ways to fix all of that. The Brassica family. Oh my God. And it's huge. These are bioaccumulators. They will absorb these toxins out of your garden, out of your yard. Obviously, don't feed them to your pets. Don't feed them to your livestock. Don't eat them yourselves. You've got to get rid of these things. But if you fear, for whatever reason, whether it be you using a garden hose that was improper rubbers, plastics, what have you, through the copper lining, and lead used solder joints in your house, all the way back to the city. God only knows what's being put in. If you're using city water, you might have contributed to this issue. So by planting brassicas on a continual basis throughout, you can correct some of these issues. Now, I know some of you, their first thought's going to be, wait a minute, I've been planting brassicas. I've been eating the brassicas. We're sick. Your body has the ability to reject them eventually. But start viewing some of these plants. One specific I'm going to go after. Start viewing some of these plants as your natural cleaner for your soil. Even though I want you adding biomaterials, composts, what have you, into your garden, clean up after yourself, because it's the afterthought. You don't know. You know, when a jet flies over, it's got an exhaust. The exhaust is heavier than oxygen. It's going to fall. If you're in flight path of an airport, you've got problems. On the other hand, you can also filter that back out by growing the right things continually year after year. Don't harvest and eat them. Just let them do their job. And I'm going to give you one specific that I truly am fascinated by. I'll get into that. You know, the factor of not knowing. They didn't start banning a lot of our pesticides, DDTs and what have you, until 72. How old is your property? What was potentially used there? Do you have a running list? Did the last owner tell you? Did the last farmer tell you? You know, a lot of these pesticides were used on farms, fruit tree farms and what have you, that are now banned. Those things didn't come back out of the soil. Now there's a hybrid. I know, I don't like hybrids, but there's a hybrid fern, very specific, that will absorb a lot of those old pesticides. And it's being scientifically studied and what have you. I'm trying to remember right offhand what the name of the organic company is that has these available, but it's an understanding. Okay, it's the point is letting you know there are a lot of ferns. There's one very, very specific that can filter out and clean up the top 6 inches of your soil and get rid of these dormant pesticides that might be there. See, that's the point. Like in Flint, Michigan right now with the problems that they're having, and I know I'm pointing one very specific friend of mine, one channel of mine. Um, I'm hoping you're catching this, Big Flip. These plants, brassicas, ferns, what have you, they can filter your yard, filter your garden, and bring it back. I know in my guide, I generalize some things that you can do, things you can add to amp up the food web. I don't really discuss cleaning things up in nature's way. What I do say is let Mother Nature's weeds do her thing. They're there for a reason. They're not the enemy. Clip off the flowers. Don't let them go to seeds. But they're not the enemy. They're there to help. Mother Nature's given us all of these incredible, incredible plants that'll even clean up after us idiot humans that have messed some things up. We can fix these things. It's just the idea. It's the mindset. It's you know, the odd thing is, or that I find odd, Marco Polo. Yeah, even way back then, when he went to China, the animals he took with him got very sick, eating a lot of these plants that were absorbing a lot of these, we'll just call them toxins at this point, because they were eating things they weren't used to, their body had never had before, that were being widely available. Now, whether the Chinese were feeding their animals this stuff is anybody's guess. But even back then, they knew, they discovered that plants were cleaning soils and absorbing things out of soils and making them readily available to the intake by animals, by humans, what have you. So why are we not hearing this? That's kind of the point of the Green Wizard's Guide. This is lost information, folks. This is information we were once told. We were once up to speed. But for financial reasons, and you chase the money, you figure it out. But for financial reasons, nobody's talking about this stuff anymore. We have oil spills and oil slicks and this and that and the other, and what, all sorts of weirdness going on, and nobody's talking about remedies to fix them. Nobody's talking about how to utilize nature to get back to organic and get the best possible out of your own yard. You want the best possible grass? Go organic. It'll save you a ton of money. I explain all of that through my mistakes in the guide. But we're not talking about. We're talking today specifically about looking at your yard, your garden, and how to filter, how to clean with the least amount of labor possible. That's key. Least amount of labor possible. Because all you're going to have to do is take these same plants and throw them away. Yes, there's other things banging around in my head that I'm going to hold for book 3. Because this is a huge field. Phytoremediation is gigantic. There's so much going on. They've known about it for many, many years. Why they're not doing something about it, why they're not talking about it, we don't know. You know, my gigantic, my experiment with, where'd they go? My experiment with the radishes. And yeah, Cherry Bell is one of them that I grew in there. Here's your white tip. They're only the size of a quarter. Make sure you can read that. Sparkling white tip. There you go. These were experiments. They're huge in my yard. No, I'm not going to eat them. Absolutely not. They're nitrogen builders. They're nitrogen fixers. They soak it up and then they re-release it back into the soil when they break down. That's kind of the same thing you do when you're building a compost pile. You're taking what you had, you're breaking it back down, and you're putting it back in your soils. And you're getting incredible results from this because they're reabsorbing naturally into the system. They're reabsorbing through the food web back into the foods that you're going to eat. I'm gonna wrap this up, but I'm gonna push this in a singular direction here and point at what is really going on here. You know, when you're dealing with this, you want to what biodegradation. Maybe that's just a simpler term that we can head into, where you're using biology, you're using the plants to degrade the soils of these toxins, whether it be the heavy metals or the old pesticides, up through dynamite. Yeah, old TNT. Yeah, it's out there. It's been buried out there. And they're using plants, like I said, to absorb these things. The rhizosphere, or the conditions between the soil and the plant, is the rhizosphere. The roots of the plant is the rhizosphere. The plant will release a chemical that tells the rhizosphere or the food web to go get this or to neutralize this or to absorb this. And it can both neutralize it in the soil, it can stop it, change it into something else, it can absorb it into the roots and maintain it in the roots. It is, and it neutralizes it at the same time. It can bring it into the plant itself, bring it out into the leaves, absorb it and hold it. It's capable of, and depending on the plant, it can even neutralize it, convert it, and turn it into something else and release it into the atmosphere. This is some tremendous stuff, guys. I mean, you know, rhizose filtration, uh, photovolatilization, photodegradation. This is all just through the leaves. Mother Nature's incredible. Don't kill off the weeds. They're there to help. Now, yeah, when you're growing your garden, you don't want to deal with weeds. And the Green Wizard Guide tells you exactly how not to have weeds in your garden. So you don't have to do that work. If you're out there every single week, you're doing something wrong, chasing weeds. There's a way to stop it. And it's all natural. It's a nitrogen builder. We're just not being told anymore. Honestly. You know, so when you're talking about your photo accumulation plants that are going to bring this stuff in, hold it, maintain it, and you be able to remove that plant at the end of the season and end up with cleaner groundwater, cleaner soil, better ability to release new stuff. And obviously, any of these, like the brassicas, that you're going to be utilizing, um, you don't consume them. Don't put them in your compost pile. Don't burn them. Just get rid of them. Pack them up and send them off to the landfill. And yes, over time, other things are going to happen in those landfills, conditions in which we don't want, which would be past 160 degrees in our compost piles and that kind of stuff. Again, all of that is covered throughout my channel. You can just go back and look. You know, I'm trying to be entertaining. I'm trying to deliver information here in such a way that everybody can uptake the information, utilize it in their own yard, and have the best yard possible in the neighborhood. Just because you understood it. That's part of our problem. The information is no longer being passed along to anybody. Nobody's talking about this stuff. And it is truly important in your yard. You know, if you think about your filtration, think about how deep tree roots go. These things can clean the groundwater and make things more bioabundant because you now have clean water. These plants are being used in greenhouses to filter water prior to putting it on plants for you to purchase and put in your garden. I know I'm going into a completely different field there. That's a completely different book. There's so much involved in gardening and what's possible, what we can do with just a little hint of knowledge and a little push in the right direction. Because that's what gardening is. That's what yard work is. That's what having the best of the best is experimenting. Mother Nature has the ability to do it all. Now, you got to be careful in some instances. You don't want to be introducing a new species of plant into your area that is excessively intrusive and is going to take over the area and and you're not going to be able to stop it. Obviously. So do your research. The knowledge is out here. You know, as more and more of my books sell, more and more I will release this information. I'll put it down in some very entertaining ways because I've made some big bonehead mistakes that, hey, I don't mind writing in my books because you guys have a good time reading them. Because if you're going to read a book, who wants to read another textbook? I know I don't. I read too many in my lifetime. Okay, so I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to close this up. I'm almost at my half hour that I wanted to do this in. And I'm just going to give you 4 very simple things you can grow. And the key, the number one that I love the most at this point, because of what I've seen it do in many other instances. So, Indian mustard, great one, great one. Again, grow it, throw it away, get rid of it. Don't keep it, but it'll clean your garden. It'll clean up some of these heavy metals. Willow. Willow can do some, yeah, but grow it. Grow it in your garden. Obviously, the poplar tree. We talked about that. It grows pretty quick. It'll absorb a lot. It'll do a whole lot, but you don't want that near the garden because you don't want to be fighting roots in your garden bed to plant a regular garden. Okay, common sense here. Nobody wants to be digging out roots. It's tremendous problem. Indian grass, of all things, Indian grass. So we're going into the fall season. You want to build your bed, throw some Indian grass in there, and worry about it next year. Move all that stuff out, and you've got some clean soil. How hard is that? Okay, that's kind of where we're headed. Now for the final, and I'll wrap it at that point. Please get this word out. Share this video. Give me a thumbs up. Share this video. Ring that bell. Let other people know the solutions are out here, and they're really, really simple. Really simple. Somebody's actually telling you what it is. Because that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get out to as many people as possible. I'm almost at the 500 mark in my followers. Little more of a push. I'll probably get there sometime this weekend. The information's here, everybody. I'm not hiding anything, and I've done everything. Anything I talk about, I've actually done myself. It's not something I just go and research. So you're going to learn from somebody who's done it. Why not, right? Why just get it from somebody who said so? We've all met college professors. I'll stop. So my number one pick for every one of you that's starting a new garden, my number one pick as to what you need to plant and grow in excess and maybe continue to grow always, because it'll keep the bees coming, it'll keep the this coming, it'll keep the that coming, is grow your sunflowers. Yep. Surprise, surprise. It is the #1 heavy metals remover from your soils. So if you've got Flint, Michigan problems, besides the fact you want to run some brassicas and run some ferns, the #1 choice, the #1 pick to grow every single year, doesn't matter where you grow it, grow your sunflowers. That's going to clean up your garden. That's where I'm going to leave off today, everybody. I hope it helped. Spread the word. The Green Wizard is here. I'm out here to help. We'll see everybody. Have a great day. You know where to find me around the web.